How's it going, guys? So you've been seeing my videos recently. I've been in BGC. Why have I been there? Well, all right, confession time. I'm really considering very strongly moving there, and so I want to check it out, see what it feels like to be there, check out different condos, look at different areas, not only in BGC, but I'm also potentially considering Makati as well. And the only way to really know if you would want to live somewhere is to actually live somewhere. And so what I'm doing is the same advice I've given to you guys on videos when you are considering moving to the Philippines, and that's try to rent different places, Airbnb, see what you think of it. Now, as I've been doing that, I've been getting comments where people are like, that's just a very expensive place to live. And same thing with friends. They say, man, BGC, like that must be really expensive if you're gonna move there. So I think that people have a bit of a misperception about BGC, or maybe they have a bit of a misperception about places like Cebu City or Davao City. Where is actually most expensive? Are they similar? Are they totally different? And the only way to really know for sure is to get on Airbnb and look at some short-term rentals and actually see what are the prices. All right, let's hop into this. But before we get into this, I've recently started a new Facebook group for California expats. If you haven't joined it already, check out the description below. Would love to see you there. So let's try Cebu City first. I actually want to focus on where I am now in Cebu City. And then I'm also going to add in where I stayed or around where I stayed in BGC. So let's look at some parameters first. Let's look at Cebu IT Park. And let's look at the days June 1st to June 8th. Let's add 2 adults and search. So here we have a couple of different places in IT Park. You can see this one, a hotel-like studio at 38th Park. Nice place. It's where I've been staying. So you could just see, yeah, this place has a nice kitchen area, nice bathroom, all the rest. 30th Park Avenue. Now, how much is that? For a studio for 7 nights, it's gonna be $281. So I'm starting off, I just wanna look at studios only. So this one here as well appears to be a studio. Also nice spot. Table, bed, your typical studio, right? So this one for 7 nights is $341. All right, so our first place here, $281, and our second place for a studio, $341. Now, you could also find some other places here, like Avida Reala, $328. All right, so let's hop into it and let's try to see what we could find in Upper BGC or near High Street, somewhere that's kind of a comparable area in BGC. So we got our June 1st to June 8th again. And let's just try to say Upper, let's see, what did this say? Uptown Mall. Or let me try to put in one Uptown Residence. See if this takes us to the area that we want. We also want to change this where it's really just a studio, but I don't think they are going to allow us to do that. So look at this one, Uptown BGC. Let's see if this is a condo, entire condo, but it's 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So it's a little bit more than the upper end of what we found for a studio in Cebu City. But again, I really want to compare apples to apples. So let's try to find a studio again. Okay, Uptown BGC, here's another place. But again, it's a 1 bedroom. So 1 bedrooms are $389, again a little bit more than Cebu City, but it's because we're looking at a 1 bedroom instead of a studio. What does a guy have to do to find a studio here? All right, let's try this one. Maybe a studio. All right, so here we go. 1 bedroom, Uptown Park Suites. This is where I stayed. Is it a studio? It appears to be. So here we go, guys. Here's a studio for $338 for 7 nights. And remember, for a studio where I'm staying in Cebu IT Park goes up to $341 for 7 nights. So this is just a few dollars lower. Of course, we were able to find a bit cheaper in Cebu City as well. But I'm just showing you guys, it's very similar what you get here. What's different though, if you look at this place, is that this is a 35 square meter place. So the studios in BGC I've seen consistently are much bigger than they are in Cebu City. So in Cebu City, most studios are going to be between about 20 to 25 square meters. And I've seen in BGC, they're normally 30 to 35 square meters. So they're much bigger space. So far, what we've seen here is that a studio condo you could get for similar prices in Cebu City and BGC, but you're gonna get a much bigger place in BGC compared to Cebu City. Now, both of these are great areas. Cebu City is very walkable. It's near an Ayala Mall, grocery market, movie theater, stuff like that. But in BGC, sorry Cebu City IT Park, you just can't remotely compare how much more BGC has to offer for a condo that's going to be about the same price. All right, I'm just looking to see if I can find anything else here. Let me try putting BGC Studio to see if I get anything more there. I'm gonna put in the name of the place where I stayed and see if I could find anything for those dates. So again, it really seems like there's a lot more 1 bedrooms in BGC compared to studios. All right, so I'm having a little bit of a hard time finding more studios. So it seems like you're just gonna wind up having more options for a 1 bedroom. So searching around, it just becomes a little bit difficult to even find smaller places like studios in BGC. Maybe more of them are just taken up right now, but what you could see is that the studios that are there in BGC are a lot bigger typically than Cebu City, and you could typically get a 1 bedroom price within the same price range as you could get a small studio in Cebu City. So in my experience, when it comes to things like Airbnb, there's just not that much of a difference between Cebu City and BGC. If you work hard, you could find deals that are a bit on the lower side in both places, and you could find expensive places as well. So you just got to play around a bit with the parameters on Airbnb. Definitely helps if you could book things a little bit more in advance because places aren't going to be already booked, and so the best deals won't disappear. So if you ever are really considering both of these places and you're concerned about things like Airbnb costs, try to look in the future a little bit. What would prices be a month ahead? You're probably going to get a better feel for both places. But for me, I really think that when you look at the value for both areas, they're both great areas, don't get me wrong. I love Cebu City, I've lived here a long time, but I think not enough people consider BGC or Makati as options because they just automatically think that they're going to be so much more expensive than Cebu City, and I just simply haven't found that that's the case. Now, I'm going to do another video soon looking at longer term rentals. For example, where I am now at 38th Park Avenue Condo, I'm in a 1 bedroom here. It costs 55,000 pesos per month for a long-term stay here. A lot of people say, that's expensive. And I say, you're right, because Cebu City is starting to get more expensive. I could absolutely find a long-term rental in BGC, I think, for a pretty decent cost. But let's see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. I'll have that video coming up in the near future. Love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments below. And as always, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch. Take care.